What's going on, everybody? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. We're going to dive into a bunch, and fun fact, I just recorded this entire video. I'll play a clip on why I can't use the audio, and it is the benefits or pros and cons of using Voicemeeter. What's going on, everybody? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. So I had to re-record it, but anyways, let's dive in. Alright, so we had some big news come out the other day, put out by MasterCard. So we have MasterCard, Ondo Finance, Connexus by JP Morgan, the private network, and the company Ripple. They successfully completed a landmark transaction connecting a public blockchain with interbank settlement rails. Together, we're laying the groundwork for 24/7 global markets that never close, and notice the XRP ledgers in this image. Now we're going to go over the full blog just to explain what actually went on, but I did just tweet this out. The XRPL processed the asset leg of the transaction in under 5 seconds. So when it comes to choosing a public crypto network, why did they choose the XRP ledger? Well, think about it. The XRP ledger is the definition of tried and true, as I said, because it's going to be turning 14 years old next month. Not to mention, it is super fast, it is super efficient, and it's never been hacked. And being hacked in the past, or your overall reputation, is a huge consideration for organizations when choosing what public crypto network to leverage. So the integrations, the pilots that we are seeing globally speaks volumes. So we're going to go over this full blog, and just remember in the last video we saw similar names with JP Morgan and the company Ripple Prime, the firm with the 50 firms driving digital asset adoption with the DTCC. Because we know that they're planning to launch the DTC's tokenization service in October. We have a lot of recognizable names, of course. We have Ripple Prime, we have Ondo Finance, JP Morgan. Point being is that a lot of these organizations are collaborating. And remember the old patents we already went over in the last video of the DTCC building interoperability. This is not just private networks, it is not just public networks, it is hybrid, being interoperable with everything. And this is about designing how money, digital assets are going to be moving, securities, treasuries, ETFs, you name it. The custody, or the DTCC, custodies over $114 trillion. And if you go to even 8marketcap.com, we can see ETFs, 13 trillion, and companies, the overall equity is over 147 trillion. Compare that to the crypto asset class, not to mention even gold. So this is happening, whether or not you believe it, whether or not people are patient or not. You have to look back in time and look at these tech shifts. You can look at Amazon, you can look at Nvidia doing absolutely nothing for years and then exploding. So this is a tech shift. I don't think it happens overnight. I hope it does. But what I really think is that this is going to happen in multiple cycles, just like we've seen over the past 10 plus years for the crypto asset class. There's going to be periods where we do nothing or crash, and then there's going to be other periods that we are just going up. And obviously, there will be diminishing returns like we've seen, but the long-term trend of the digital asset class is going to be up. We're an absolute fraction of the amounts when you look at other asset classes that are all going to be tokenized, they are all going to be digital. Now, the thing we already know about alts like XRP is obviously, in bullish scenarios, it has a lot more explosive asymmetric upside than Bitcoin. But the thing is, you can have a lot more downside in bearish scenarios. And for example, let's just say that Bitcoin goes over 200k, then XRP has the shot to go over 10 bucks. And on the other side, let's say that there's some black swan and Bitcoin goes all the way below 40,000. In that case, XRP could be 30, 60 cents. So there's a lot to consider, especially now that we have the new Federal Reserve Chair stepping in on May 15th. Next up, make sure you're looking at the screen right now. We are on CoinGlass looking at the Pi cycle. I'm losing my voice a bit, so bear with me. But anyways, we can see this green moving average right now. I want you to look at that and see that level last updated on May 3rd, and we can see that value is over 191,000 for Bitcoin. Now what the Pi cycle top indicator is that accurately maps the last 3 Bitcoin cycle tops within a matter of a few weeks. So we can see when we got the golden cross of the red cutting up through the green, we mapped the top in April of 21. So this was mapped with the monthly Bitcoin momentum, the RSI. I know we did one more high, but that was bearish divergence. So we had the top right there, we had the top back in 2017. As we can see, like the very end of 2017, early 2018, and then we added all the way back in 2013. And notice we haven't had another golden cross where the red line, this red moving average, comes up and cuts up through the green. So we haven't had one since 2021. So this is one of many indicators to consider, but what I want to point out is if, let's say, Q3, Q4, Bitcoin runs up, these moving averages are going to come up as well. They're both going to move higher, and then we are in that setup for another golden cross. So we are at 191,000 today, as of May 3rd, and now we can see in the past we had the golden cross form, prices go even higher, the green moving average goes even higher. So I just want to point that out, that we are just getting above the red, and we can see during past cycles we did in fact go below the red as well. Not too long though. Now obviously there are infinite scenarios, but let's say with option A we get the rate cuts that this federal chair has been talking about, and the US dollar goes down or just weakens, and then we still have somewhat positive liquidity in that scenario, then we could see like a sizable blow off top. Or we could be looking at like option B, maybe 1 or 2 rate cuts, the dollar or DXY, the index, stays kind of level for the most part, and there's not any major recession. In that case, we continue to chop, and that is pretty much what we've been doing. And then the third option, we could see recession, we could see inflation going crazy, some type of geopolitical shock, credit shock. We've been seeing that anyways. And that would be like, a bigger retracement, another 50% down for Bitcoin. But the most interesting thing that I'm considering is Bitcoin dominance. So if Bitcoin is making higher highs and Bitcoin dominance crashes, we have not had an official alt season, and this would be it, when Bitcoin dominance crashes. We haven't had one since 2021. Exactly like the last Pi cycle top. So if you actually think we had an alt season since 2021, we didn't. Yes, Bitcoin created a high around 126k, but we did not see the usual alt season that we saw in 21 and 2017, so keep that in mind. And not financial advice, believe whatever you guys want. But again, alt seasons typically happen out of nowhere when nobody expects it or everybody gives up hope out of boredom or fear. Alright, so let's dive into this. We're just going to do some cliff notes of what exactly happened with Ondo, Connexus, MasterCard, and the company Ripple completing the first cross-border, cross-bank redemption of tokenized US Treasuries. Now, I know that US Treasuries are boring, stable assets, but all of these tests and transactions have to begin with a simple asset to be tokenized first, and then they can explore and go into more advanced things, or even new asset types. Alright, so high level, what exactly happened? So this involved Ondo short-term US government treasuries, OUSG. And this is the first transaction of its kind between global financial institutions. Instead of being completely dependent on traditional wire systems, manual processes, human intervention, and limited operating hours, they integrated blockchain-based asset redemption so that it can trigger settlements automatically. So we had the company Ripple sell a portion of its tokenized US Treasury holdings on the XRP ledger. Then we had Ondo process it and triggered a US dollar payout that traveled through MasterCard's multi-token network right into Connexus. And then it went out through JP Morgan's correspondent banking network, landing in Ripple's Singapore bank account. So all of this was done in near real time. We had 2 different blockchains used, the XRP ledger being public and then Connexus being private. Alright, next up, so we have some really big news coming up, and this is happening in 2 days, on May 14th. So we have the Senate Banking Committee voting on the Clarity Act this Thursday. And now this vote, I don't even think it's debatable. This vote is more important than any other piece of crypto news this year. And we have a great write-up made by iTrust explaining and summarizing everything. So what's the big deal about the Clarity Act, and what does it actually do? First, it would actually establish a clear criteria for classifying digital assets, so it would be finally splitting the jurisdiction between the SEC that regulates securities and the CFTC for digital commodities. And I really like this part, so the bill also incorporates the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. This would prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC directly to individuals. And it would also really get rid of the years of this regulation by enforcement garbage that we've seen the SEC do by standardizing all the laws, the definitions, and compliance. And most importantly, this really set the stage for future regulation, future bills that we need for custody, for lending, DeFi, yield, you name it. So the Clarity Act is exactly what paves the way for RWAs to be used in the mainstream or go mainstream. We also have a bunch of the events in chronological order for anybody that wants to read this. So So we're rooting for this vote to go through. There's a chance that it doesn't. So it's really important that the Senate approves this and passes this own version this year. So right now we are focused on the markup. We want the Senate to vote. The House already passed this back in July. And most importantly, when does the White House want this bill, the Clarity Act, to be signed? We can see that the Trump administration is targeting the 4th of July, Independence Day. And I'm sure you guys remember Independence Day, hint hint. So let's hope that we have an amazing summer. And remember, iTrust is linked in the top of this YouTube video description and right in my link tree. It's the very first link. And if you're a US resident and you're watching this video, please consider being positioned now in a tax-advantaged crypto Roth IRA. And you guys already know I've had my Roth with iTrust since January of 2020, so this is linked right in the video description and right in the pinned comment to get started. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and let me know your thoughts down below. You can find all links to my crypto resources, including tools for charting, trading bots, wallets, portfolio trackers, and exclusive discounts right in my link tree in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.